Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome very early to the morning Devo with Bo. It is let's see, what time is it? Let me look. What time we got? 7:13 right now. Wow. So it's a little on the early side, for sure. But had to get in early and get the devotion going because I got some hockey this morning. So anyway, welcome to the morning devotion. If this is your first time, my name's Bo, and the full name's Bo Willett. It's right over there. And you could always type that into the YouTube search bar and come up with all my different devotions that I've done, the different books of the Bible. I do my devotions through the Bible. I just go through it, go through the book, and I just go kind of chapter by chapter, verse by verse, and kind of learn more about God that way. Now, coming from a secular progressive background, a very atheistic background, out in Southern California, we don't grow up with the Bible. We don't grow up around really Christian people, or I didn't really hang out with any. I didn't think I did anyway. And and it just wasn't part of kind of my culture. So you don't really read the Bible, and lo and behold, you have a lot of questions about a lot of things. Why can't I do this? What about this? If there is a God, why doesn't he show up? You have all these different questions. Little did I know that the Bible would have answers to all these things. And, so when I was around, 16, 18, somewhere in there, that's when I started actually reading the Bible, just from the beginning, and was quite blown away on how different it was than, say, the Atheist Manifesto, stuff that I was used to, very humanistic writings, and so anyway, let's get into this one. Psalm 104. This is a song. It's Psalms, but it's a psalm. And so just think of it that way. And these are lyrics. So it says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord, my God, you are very great. You are clothed with honor and majesty. You cover yourself with light as with a garment, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain. He lays the beams of his upper chambers in the water, who make the clouds his chariot, who walks on the wings of the wind." That sounds cool. And it says, "Who makes his angels spirits, his ministers a flame of fire." You might want to find out where that passage is at. It's actually quoted in the New Testament. And it says, "You who laid the foundations of the earth, so that it should not be moved forever. You covered it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At your rebuke they fled. At your voice, your thunder, they hastened away. They went up over the mountains. They went down to the valleys, to the place which you founded for them. You have set a boundary that they may not pass over, yet they may not return to cover the earth." That they may not return to cover the earth. Wow, interesting. So it's kind of talking about God as being kind of over everything that's going on the planet. Even when it comes to the water, it sounds very flood-like when we read the Noah's flood, what we call Noah's flood. Really, it was the flood that was in judgment of human beings, which is tough for us, right? We don't need judgment. We don't deserve judgment. And that's how it hits us, right? Because we're a prideful bunch, very stubborn group of the race of humans, that's for sure. And so we don't want to hear about God judging things, especially holding us accountable. That doesn't sound too fun. But yet, this is what the Bible speaks of when it speaks of God, a personal God, a God who's involved in our lives. And not only is he involved in our lives, but he's also the creator, and he's the one who sets up the laws of nature. And what's interesting is we do have laws of nature. We do have laws of logic as well. And so we have certain rules that are in place, and you can't break those. You could try all you want. You could say things, you could make up things, you could say this is that and that's this, but it really doesn't change what is really true about the way our world works, right? Sun hits certain things and it causes things to grow, and seeds germinate, and all kinds of laws are in action, right? The laws of gravity. You can't go up on a building and jump off a building and think that gravity's not going to work. No, gravity's going to work no matter what. Hey, Ashley, good having you in the devotion this morning. Hey, Paula. And yeah, it's great to see people in the comment corner this early. So the beginning of that psalm is really kind of describing God as being kind of over everything. God kind of as almost like a giant human being. He walks on the wings of the wind, and this kind of ideas. God's just so big. He's over everything that he's created. And it says in verse 10, he sends the springs into the valleys. They flow among the hills. So still kind of that organization of everything on earth. They give drink to every beast of the field. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. By them the birds of the heavens have their home. They sing among the branches. He waters the hills from the upper chambers. The earth is satisfied with the fruit of your works. So that's kind of the idea, is the fruit of God's works. Do I think about what God has done, God's work, God's, if you will, handiwork? Again, the Psalms, these lyrics paint God as like an artist, that God is always just about the business of fine-tuning everything. He's like that artist or that guitar player, that piano player that's, everything's got to be precise. They practice because they can feel everything. They notice when something's off. Just like that painter who's painting and goes, it's not quite right? It's not quite right yet. And they keep going at it, keep going at it, keep going at it. And so that's kind of the idea there is, the writer is enamored by the artist. And I guess that begs a question, what am I enamored by? It's funny. It's like all of us are enamored by the world we live in. We look at the stars at night and we're blown away by it. We look at the mountains. We see the sunset. Last night's sunset was awesome. We see those things, and a lot of times we just kind of think it's always been. We just go, oh, it's always been like this. Well, no, it's not always been like this. And we have to learn how to appreciate. Because what if you live in a world that doesn't appreciate? Then we start living in a world of hate, right? Or indifference to beauty. We don't care. There's other things that are on our priority, but we certainly aren't appreciative, right? We don't say thank you anymore because we're not appreciative, right? We don't think we need to be thankful. We don't think we need to be in awe of the beauty of people. Not everything we do as people is beautiful, that's for sure. We definitely got massive issues. So much so we need saving. But there is something to be enamored by with human beings. Gosh, we are a resilient group. And even in all of our stubborn and stiff-neckedness, man, there is some good that we tend to do at times. And we tend to, at times, have some glimpses of getting it right. And they can be some beautiful ones, for sure. And so just being enamored by God's handiwork. When I was growing up an atheist, I wasn't enamored by, even though I was enamored by music and art, I never really was very appreciative or thankful. I tended to be very selfish and self-centered. Because, hey, there was no God. There's nothing. Why should I be appreciative? It's just the way it is. That's kind of how I thought, But here the writer of this song, Song 103, right, is appreciative of the artistic work of the Creator. Man, that's cool, So he causes the grass to grow for the cattle and vegetation of the service of man, that he may bring forth food from the earth and wine that makes glad the heart of man, oil to make his face shine, and bread which strengthens man's heart. Man, it talks about food, talks about wine, talks about bread, things like that. Now, don't overdo it on the wine or the bread or the oil, right? You don't want to overdo these things, but yeah, they're a blessing. They can be a real blessing to people. The trees of the Lord are full of sap, the cedars of Lebanon which he planted, where the birds make their nests. The stork has her home in the fir trees. The high hills are for the wild goats. The cliffs are a refuge for the rock badgers. He appointed the moon for seasons, the sun to know its going down. You make darkness and its night, in which all the beasts of the forest creep about. The young lions roar at their prey. They seek their food from God. When the sun rises, they gather together and lie down in their dens. Man goes out to his work and to his labor until the evening. Wow, that's interesting. Even in the Bible, when do you work? Until the sun comes down, and then you go in. O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions. The great and wide sea, in which are innumerable teeming things, living things both small and great. There the ships sail about. There is that Leviathan which you have made to play there. Leviathan, some kind of creature that's in the ocean. It's called Leviathan. That sounds pretty mighty. And so I love verse 24 because it says, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them. The earth is full of your possessions. So the idea is looking at the earth and looking at the intelligence of the earth, looking at that there's an intelligence behind all the fine-tuning that's taking place. In God's wisdom, he's made them, right? So there's a wisdom behind everything that's made, right? When you put together a bunch of dominoes on the floor and you just throw them out, the dominoes, they don't just stack up themselves, right? They don't just become something that looks like a house on their own. No, you got to actually have a mind to be able to stack the dominoes up a certain way. Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to think the world was just thrown out there and it just became what it became. That it was like that stack of dominoes that you just throw out over the living room floor and somehow a beautiful house appeared, right? Well, you could throw out your dominoes all day long on the living room floor. I mean, you could do it all day, 24 hours a day. And guess what? It's not going to stack up. They're not all going to stack up. Nope. They're going to fall and just be scattered about. It has to take a mind and a power to be able to think of something and put it together, construct it. And that's what the writer is getting at with God's wisdom behind everything we see. But what if we live in a world that throws out the wisdom of God? It says, no, there's no creator, nope. Then all you're doing as a human being now is focusing on humans. You think humans got it all together. You think we know what we're doing, but we're tiny. We're too super tiny. We're microscopic in the grand scheme of the galaxies and our universe. We are tiny. And you think you got it together? You think you know what you got going on? You think you know how to handle and you know everything about everything? Man, we are a mess, right? To think that way. We go to school and we go to these things called universities, and we think because we get a little knowledge of these laws that are in place, and we can make something that blows up other things, that we tend to be very cool people. But what a weird way of looking at things, right? We make something like the atomic bomb, and wow, we really have learned some stuff. Maybe we've learned some stuff, but maybe we haven't done very well with anything we've learned. Maybe instead we just have hate and envy and bitterness, and we continue to have these things in our heart. So maybe, just maybe, the psalmist is right, and we have to start looking back to the Creator and the wisdom that's behind the Creator to help us, knowing that maybe we lack some of that wisdom, right? Maybe we lack that looking upward. Maybe we should be looking upward more at God and not so much at the peeps. at people. So he goes on in verse 27, these all wait, and he's talking about the sea creatures, these all wait for you, that you may give them food in due season. What you give them, they gather in. You open your hand, and they are filled with good. You hide your face, and they are troubled. You take away their breath, and they die and return to the dust. You send forth your spirit, they are created, and you renew the face of the earth. Wow. So it sounds like, again, the psalmist in his lyrics is just writing about how God's involved in every aspect, life, death, all of it. May the glory of the Lord endure forever. May the Lord rejoice in his works. He looks on the earth, and it trembles. He touches the hills, and they smoke. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. I will sing praise to my God while I have my being. May my meditation be sweet to him. I will be glad in the Lord. May sinners be consumed from the earth, and the wicked be no more. Blessed the Lord, O my soul, praise the Lord. Okay, so the psalmist sees something that we see all the time too, and that is we kind of have this frustration. It's funny, no matter what side of the political lens you are, they're wicked on the other side, right? That's how people see it. When I was raised super progressive, those conservatives are wicked. When you're conservative, then you look at those progressives and you go, they're wicked, they're the problem. It's funny how the psalmist says, God, you consume, you judge. You're the one who's going to judge. You judge. And notice, he's appealing to a more righteous judgment. Someone who has a greater character, a better character, a righteous character that judges correctly. Where obviously we got it all wrong. We judge everybody. I mean, we don't know how to not judge. We tend to judge always in a wrongful way. We tend to put down. We tend to slander. It's just unfortunate that that's the way we are. It's not the way we ought to be, but it's what we see scientifically when we just look at the world. If I look at the world in a scientific way of what's going on with human beings, I notice that we tend to be very judgmental and quite a mess. And yet the psalmist says, hey, God, you judge these people. You judge people. I'm just going to sing about how awesome you are, how amazing you are. And I'm going to be overwhelmed. I'm going to be glad in you, glad in how you've done things. That your ways and the way you've done things is so beautiful. The way the animals do their thing, right? But Lord, you need to judge us human beings, because we obviously got something wrong. So it's neat that he'll look at the animal world. He doesn't say God judge the animal world. He doesn't say God judge the stars. He just says, God, you need to judge humans. That's what you need to do. That's what I'm looking to you to do, is you're going to need to judge us humans, because out of everything that's going on, all the natural laws that are happening and the way the animals live, what throws the monkey wrench into the equation is always us human beings. Us human beings tend to mess up not just our own world, but other things' worlds too. We, I'm sure, bum out the cats and dogs, and we domesticate things, right? We domesticate animals. We breed them and overly breed animals to make them into cute little things that we call pets. Yeah, it's amazing what we've done to animals. And it's it's sometimes hard for us to look at in an honest way, but you look at our world, and the human race has really got involved in a lot of involved in the lives of so many different creatures of the world. And I know it's always to try to help them. That's what we always say. We're going to try to help them, right? But are we really helping them? Do we really help them? Now we have animals that can't live on their own. right? They are domesticated, right? If we were to send them out into the woods, they wouldn't last long, right? Because they don't know anymore how to hunt or to do things that they once did. So we definitely alter the course of things. And so he says, hey, may sinners be consumed from the earth. Isn't that crazy? The wicked be no what? No more, right? All your laws are in action, God. You are the great artist. But there's this one thing that's creating a huge problem, and that's us, right? Now, this is what Jesus has come to change and rectify, and that is to change the way humans are, to fix human beings, to help us to understand that there is a God, and to look upward instead of being humanist and being just focused on us as being the pinnacle of the creation. See, when humans see themselves as the pinnacle, the top of the tier of everything, then we will dominate everything. We have to get away from that. We have to start looking at ourselves as created beings, that we are accountable to our Creator, right? And that it matters how we treat other people, and it matters how we talk about other people, how if we, and that kind of thing. And so you could see that the writer is just writing this beautiful song about an artist who just creates the world and everything in it, and it's so beautiful, and there's so much laws, and all of them work so well together, and everything's going great, but you need to take care of these human beings. And Jesus is later on comes to rectify that, change that. And and one day it'll be settled and made right. But in the meantime, we look out there in the world, right? And as we drive our cars everywhere, and as we try to get, fix the world by making electric cars, but then we just mess up doing that too. And we take out a ton of other issues. We make a ton of other issues doing that. Oh, it's just maddening, right? But what a cool song. Helps us focus on the artist, the creator. That when God created, he said it was good. And we look at the world and we go, gosh, how can I play a better part on my planet than what I've been, what I've done? Can I think better about being part of the collective of everything that God's created on the planet, including me? And seeing part of that whole, instead of looking at myself so individualistic, right? So very cool. I like that psalm. I think that psalm's pretty neat. I love the idea of looking at God as an artist. So, hey, you guys have a good day. I'm so glad you two joined me for the morning Devo. That was a very early morning Devo. So maybe think of God today as you look at the sky and you look at the mountains, and just remember you're a part of his wonderful handiwork. And amen. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.